us here in a minute, and we will get started. It is 8:50, and we're going to have you get ready. If you have do you have a presentation?
No.
But we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay then. All right. Well, we'll just wait till we get Judge Robert in here. We'll have two judges, and if you can kind of keep your dance moves going there.
Hi, Judge Robert.
Hello. Hello.
So they do not have a presentation. We've had a chance to see the, in fact, I have your notebook here. So I'm going to kick it off with my first question. So I'm familiar with some nonprofits that work with robotics teams, but I'm not familiar with New River. So would you guys tell me a little bit more about what's your interaction like? Are there other teams that work with you through this nonprofit? What are the goals, or how do you understand the importance of that?
So back in 2012 to 2013, we wanted to make an organization to support the growing number of robotics teams around the New River Valley. So our old coach along with our other coaches, made an organization called the New River Robotics Association, which could take funding from sponsors and then give it out to all the different robotics teams in our area, so all of them could be supported. Under our blanket, we have teams like the FLL teams like the Gazelles, the Civil Bots, the Panda Cubs. We've previously had FLL Juniors under that belt, and currently we have ourselves as an FTC team.
And you mentioned some other FTC teams in your notebook. You said mentor and advise. What does mentor and advise look like for an FTC team? That you've listed Hybrid Demons, you had one job, PC Rocker Robotics. What does your interaction with them look like?
For example, we went to Christiansburg Middle School, the Hybrid Demons, and we helped them to develop a strategy. They didn't have a solid plan for the season. So we helped them with the programming, helped them get started on their chassis, and helped them develop a strategy so that they could then compete with other teams.
And is that's similar to what you do with the other teams that you listed?
Yes. Yeah.
Some of our other interactions aren't just us helping them, it's also them helping us. So on our robot, we have these two pieces which allow us not to cause field damage using our collection system. And the touring squad had actually given them to us, and they're FLL parts.
Okay. I like that integration. Judge Robert, would you talk a little bit about that robot now that we've had a close-up of it?
Oh, yes. I guess if somebody can, if someone can run me through like the basics of the robot.
Okay. So, our robot is named Snapped and Hook. That the name has come about from our arm mechanism. Can someone raise the arm? So, we're not turning on the program because it's connected. Because our arm is run through a worm gear, so we can't turn it by hand. So our arm uses strings to extend a linear slide, and we got the name Snapped and Hook because up until recently, we would snap these strings once or twice a meeting. So so on the strings at the end, give us some room for tolerance, and back here we have added a limit switch, so that way we can pull the arm all the way in and tell a program that, okay, the arm is at 0 right now. And with an encoder on the motor that extends it, we can then set a maximum extension distance.
We also, while we were fine-tuning this, we also slowed down our arm motor significantly. We have since sped it back up, but we slowed it down significantly so that the drivers would have a little more reaction time if they noticed that the surgical tubing was getting stretched or that the string was very close to snapping.
Our robot is a Gobilda Strafer chassis, and it's skinny because we wanted to go over the around the barriers, but we also have the capability to go over barriers. And that makes us a great alliance partner because we can do either if our alliance partner can't. We also have a duck wheel that is geared, and we used math to find out what the best speed for the servo to spin at was, and we're 10% under what we found.
The escape we did math in order to find the
Here.
the
Escape velocity.
yeah, the escape velocity of the duck. And we're 10%, our speed is 10% under that.
To give us margin for error.
Yes.
That's very nice. This is the physics teacher talking. All right, can you tell me a little bit more about when you guys do your strategy, how do you decide? You have a pretty big team. So do you have a strategy team? Do you have separate, like how are you organized within, I see that you've described it, but tell me how you work together with such a large team.
Wait, it's frozen. So each week we use self-selecting groups to figure out which part of the robot we want to work on. And also during multiple times we come together and collaborate if there are any big decisions needed to work on with the robot. Otherwise we all split off and do certain parts. Just like one group would work on the arm, the other would work on the duck wheel, the other on the chassis, and that's how we manage our time, as well as the strategy throughout. We have an entire plan for the season, which we plan like what months we do things like outreach all throughout competitions and building. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and adding on to what Chase said about the subgroups, we divide the subgroups each week, but it's not always the same people working in each subgroup, and we manage that by documenting in our engineering notebook each week what each subgroup did that week.
So that way we're not like repeating ourselves and trying to do the same thing the last subgroup did, even if we weren't specifically on that group.
Now, during competition, our strategy with the other teams mostly revolves around our playbook. We've built a playbook which you can find on our engineering portfolio, page 5.
4. That was
4. Where the teams can see our autonomous, and they can ask us like if they can do something, and then we are like, okay, sure, we can run our other autonomous program. And for teleop, we have 3 play patterns that we can run, that we can play in case one works best with another team. So this allows us to be a flexible team and a great alliance partner, and we were able to score some pretty high points yesterday because of that.
We also
Yeah, I see that you did pretty well. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We also want every member of the team to be like participating in the competition, even if they can't be at the venue. So what we have is back at the shop, we have a team that is like the rest of the team that's not on the drive team. We have them strategizing back at the shop, looking up other teams, seeing what they can and cannot do, and what we're doing in the competition, what we feel like we need to improve. And that's why we decided that we didn't manage to get it for this competition, but for states, we're improving our collection because we found that that was taking up the longest time, and this is the prototype of that.
Yeah, and to add on to what Sapir said about the playbook, we're very flexible with our autonomous programs because we use a state machine in the form of commands, kind of like an FLL. So like I tell it move blank amount of distance at blank angle, and it does it. That makes it very easy to make flexible programs that we can change in a matter of minutes.
Okay. Judge Robert, do you want to ask about anything else on the robot while we're looking at the robot here?
Oh, okay. That's a very interesting design. I guess I guess how did you come up with your current intake system?
So our current intake system is the result of many weeks of using the design process. We originally had a very large collection system when our chassis was wider, but then we had to scale it down to make it fit in the narrow body of the chassis. And we experimented with a lot of different bristle types. These bristles are zip ties inside of surgical tubing, and the zip ties allow it to be strong so that it will grip the blocks, and then the surgical tubing allows it to be grippy so it'll have some friction on the blocks. And we found that combination works pretty well. But we're always looking for new ways to improve, which is why we're trying to make it a little bit faster with this wheel. But we weren't able to do that for this competition. But we hope to implement that before states.
So,
Do you pick, where does the block go? Do you just kind of spin it and it sort of like bubbles on top?
Yeah,
of,
it stays
you
in
don't
here.
seem to have a place to keep.
Correct. We
Just
have
kinda walk me through
our
that.
servo spins 2 ways, so we have the block just sits in here, and then we spin
Okay.
it back out the other way.
So,
Okay.
another
Do
thing.
you have a preference for blocks or balls, or do you just
Uh,
just cargo?
We can pick up really
We can-
anything.
So another thing that I would like to mention of the change from our prototype to both the one that we currently have and the newer one is we went to a scrimmage and we noticed that the drivers were having a hard time seeing if we had a block inside of our collection mechanism and if it was and what type of block. And so when we scaled it down to fit the narrower robot, we made the sides out of Lexan and the bottom out of does anyone know what this is called?
Metal
Yeah.
mesh.
Yeah, it's some sort of metal mesh. So that allows us to easily see if we have a block in there and what type of block it is.
How do you prevent yourself from picking up two? Can you actually control well enough to just release one, or if you get two, do you have to spit them both out? Try again.
The collection mechanism isn't really big enough to fit 2, so that the size limits it from being big enough to.
we also
We did see it happen once a few weeks ago by this point. It was pretty easy to get one block out, and we kept the other block and put it in the top of the Alliance Hub.
we do a lot of driver practice so that we can be precise when we're driving the robot, and we also learn from each other.
Because we had 2 separate drive teams for these 2 separate competitions. So while one drive team went last competition, another drive team went this competition. That way, 4 separate drive teams. So it was 2
So we
per
had
competition.
10 people actually drive the robot.
Yes.
Wow. So almost your whole team is also able to drive.
Yes.
Our whole team is able to drive. We just haven't sent the whole team to a competition yet, since we
Correct.
were able to bring 5 students to each competition.
And there are 12 people on the team.
Yeah. Just pretty sure. Autonomous sensors. Do you want to kind of give us a little bit on that? I know you've got a lot to probably put into a control submission, so don't go that detailed, but like in general.
We used a camera on the front of our robot paired with OpenCV. Our last competition, we were using 2 static boxes that we had preset, and we got the average yellow color of each of those boxes. The problem with that is that if the robot was slightly off of its starting position, then it couldn't detect where the duck or line shipping element was. So instead, over the past 2 weeks, we've been developing a slightly more complex program that tracks where the shipping element is using thresholding and edge detection in order to check if it's on the left side of what the camera's seeing or the right.
So in autonomous, we also use encoders and the gyro sensor in the control hub to help us be a lot more precise on the field. So this year's barriers prevented us from using
Dead wheels.
dead wheels. So we the best precision we could get was by putting encoders on the wheels. That allows us to know how far we're strafing left or right, or going forwards or backwards. And the gyro sensor allows us to achieve a field-centric view. So rather than we say the robot, okay, so when we tell the robot to go forwards, it wouldn't just go this way. It would go instead this way. Because it's a field-centric orientation, when we say go forwards, it always goes that way, no matter of which way it is turned.
There's no front to our robot, really. So that, like, wherever the drivers are facing is forward, and where it's so that,
It's from the driver's perspective.
yes. We also have an 8x8 matrix of lights on our robot, so that in autonomous we can see where the team shipping element is, so that we can make sure that it's reading it correctly. And we hope to implement this for testing which block is heavy versus light later.
Yeah, it shows L, C, or R.
Now, this 8x8 matrix
That's
is
exactly right.
publicly available on GitHub, so any team who wants to use it can use it for their own robot in the spirit of FIRST. So far, 30 people have already downloaded it for their own uses. We believe this is the first time something like this has been done before in
Yeah, that's unique. I mean, I've seen LEDs in different colors to indicate status of something, but that's a nice little display. We have about 3 minutes left. Judge Robert, do you have another question about this robot?
I'm more for, I guess, closing statements. What you really want us to focus on, the things that you really want us to keep in mind with the.
Something we are all really proud of and we like to highlight is our outreaches. So far we have done 11 total outreaches this season, and one was even at a library in a very rural area that is 30 miles out of our normal radius for outreaches. And we helped kids that might not be as exposed to STEM normally be exposed to STEM and let them build robots and learn more about STEM.
We're also really happy and proud of our collaboration with other teams. We were able to learn from them, and we were able to teach them more about the robot or learning about FTC.
What do you consider, since you do some great outreach, have you looked at what is your next biggest challenge, or have you done a risk assessment? How are you going to remain sustainable?
So our sustainability plan comes in a summer program known as Panda Pals. Our summer program, Panda Pals, which we just this summer gained 5 new members from. 2 of them are absent today. Allows us to invite anyone who wants to come over to our shop, so we can see how they mesh with the team, and we can see how they, if they're interested in robotics. One of them, Truxton, he found Panda Pals through our social media, and we also use that to be sustainable. Our business plan is also sustainable because we're in the CRC, which has a lot of companies around here. Just 500 feet from us is a STEM company. So we even get our mentors coming in from those places, and some of our mentors even come from our sponsors.
the CRC that Sapir was talking about is the Corporate Research Center here at Virginia Tech. The Corporate Research Center also gives us this space for free and is one of our sponsors.
Ah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I was going to ask about that, but unfortunately we're out of time. Thank you and good luck to you in your continued robotics adventure.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice
Bye.
day. Bye.
So Judge Robert, I'm going to go to the next room, although it's empty. I'm just going to sit over there for a little bit.
Okay.
And we're clear!